live. We will go. Live. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is a Facebook Live. We're joined with Jeff Jeff Anzalone here, and he's gonna go through his journey, how he went from passive investor to active investor, and now is pursuing the real estate professional status. Might even have the real estate professional status. We're going to learn all about that today. Jeff, want to thank you for joining us. Would you mind just kind of giving everybody in the Facebook group, our YouTube community, just a brief introduction to your background and kind of how you got to where you are kind of now?
Yeah, and as I'm going through this, you'll probably notice that I've had several accidents, and the accidents are the ones that have actually changed my life. And accidents, failures, that sort of thing. I don't call them accidents or failures anymore. I call them learning experiences. So I went to dental school, then I eventually did a surgery residency. I'm from a small town in Louisiana, so I wanted to come back to my hometown. So I've been talking to this group here about joining. And 2 weeks before I finished my residency, we had a 2 month old. We'd already bought a home, and I was getting ready to join this group. Well, unfortunately, the deal fell apart right at the last minute. And if you know anything about dental school or medical school or any type of professional school, they don't teach you anything about starting a business, starting a practice, or money, which, pretty important things. They just teach you like how to do your quote trade or craft. That put kind of things in a tailspin there. And luckily, being from a small town, I had somebody reach out to me that something similar had happened to him. So he allowed me to come into his office, rent space from him, use his equipment, share his employees. And that was great because he taught me how to run a practice. And I did that for 2 years. Eventually went out on my own, and I'm in my own building now. Back then, I was a big Dave Ramsey follower, where because he was pretty much the only financial person, big name financial person back then. This is like 20 years ago. No debt. Don't pay cash for everything. Don't go into debt. Did the seven baby steps, and took us like about 7.5 years. I had $300,000 in student loan debt. Took us about 7.5 years to clean all that up and to pay off my home, our first home too. Then it was kind of like, okay, now what? Well, I thought I was just going to be on cruise control like all the advisors and everybody teach you to work for 30 or 40 years, 401k, live happily ever after. Well, so the first, I guess, accident or whatever, a problem was when the deal fell through with my practice. Second accident happened when we were snow skiing. And my kids were like 9 and 7 years old. We go snow skiing. I fall. I hurt my wrist. I hurt my hand. I'm like, well, crap. It's kind of hard to practice dentistry without a hand, right?
Yeah.
And that, Tom, that was my wake up call to what would I do? How would I provide for my family if I couldn't work? And I think people should look at that. And I think a lot of people noticed during COVID, when a lot of things got shut down, including my dental practice, what happens if your active income goes away? I didn't know anything else to do. I had a dental degree. It's kind of hard paying, all these bills working at serving coffee at Starbucks. So I that led me to start looking at other ways to replace our income. And then, as you know, you go online, there's just like a ton of information. So I said, okay, let me look at like not all these gurus or whatever. Let me look at what the wealthy people, like the people worth 8, 9, 10 figures, what do they do? And I took like a deep dive, and I'll condense all this information in really to two facts for you and your audience. Number one, wealthy people, 90% of the wealthy people I looked at, they own real estate. Okay, so if you go to a conference or whatever and you ask people what they do, these people don't say, I am blank. I am a doctor. I am a dentist. I'm an attorney. I'm an accountant. They don't do that. They say, I own these businesses. I own this real estate portfolio. So that was a big shift because at that time I didn't own any real estate, just my primary residence. And then number two, they had multiple streams of income, like 7 to 10 streams of income coming in. I only had one from my practice. So that really helped narrow my, what I was going to be looking for to, okay, I need to go invest in real estate for multiple income streams. And that actually, I can keep going and I'm sure you'll ask me a bunch of questions, but that's how I eventually got into this, the iceberg of starting with real estate.
And so when you got into passive investing, why did you just decide, hey, look, I want to go the passive route, syndicates and funds, or did you first explore the opportunity to maybe go active first and run some roadblocks and then pivot? Like, how did that? Why? What was specifically your path to passive, and why you chose that path first?
Yeah, that's a good question because when I just started off knowing that I need to go the real estate route, I thought the only thing that you could do is go out and buy a home and rent it out, or go buy some sort of property and rent it out. That I didn't know anything about passive. I've got a couple of wealthy friends here that they run their family's real estate. So I was networking with them. I was going to lunch. Hey, can you come? I found a house on Zillow. Can you come with me? Let's go look at it. Oh yeah, maybe you should do. I didn't know freaking nothing about it.
Right.
And I'm still juggling my practice over here, and and I almost pulled the trigger on a house not that far from my practice. And then I got invited to go to this conference. It was mainly for dentists about real estate in Dallas. And I said, okay, let me go to that because they're gonna teach me how to do this. And it's gonna be a bunch of dentists there, and that's gonna be good. But what was crazy was when I got there, it was totally like 95% about the conference was all about ways you can passively invest. I'd never heard of syndications. I never heard of hard money loans or, all these different things. And I said, well, dang, that means that I can take my money instead of putting it in the stock market like I've been doing for the last 10 years. Now I can put it into real estate. And then that way that would help me to start, bringing in streams of income. So if I do hurt my wrist again or whatever, I could do that.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. And then I know you mentioned that you went then from passive investing to active investing. Why, what kind of got you along on that path? Why make the shift from, say, passive investing and taking that more hands-off approach to getting more hands-on on the active side?
And it really took me probably 6 or 7 years to get comfortable with, I started off as an LP, a limited partner. Then I started blogging about it, debtfreedoctor.com, because there wasn't a whole lot of information about real estate and syndications to the doctor community. And the more that I was learning, the more I was growing this following. So I was kind of looking at it from both ways. First, from a limited partner, and then as I was investing more and more, I was getting ready to invest with a group in Dallas, an apartment syndication. They said, hey, Jeff, you have this little email following. You want to see if some of the people on your email list want to invest in this deal as well. And we'll go through all the legal channels and all that. We can make you like a co-general partner. And that was my first experience of raising capital. Again, I was just like falling into this stuff. So then as I started raising money for more and more groups, I was able to look at the general partnership side and learn the operations and that sort of thing. And then also the limited partnership side. And just kind of my personality, I just wanted to be more involved. And that shift has gotten me to do a couple things. I'm still a limited partner in syndications. Now I'm like a co-general partner in some of the syndications. And then I also partnered with another person, just me and one other guy, and we're actually buying mobile home parks. I live in Louisiana, so we're buying mobile home parks in Louisiana. And that's where I'm really active. Like, I'm actually actively going to the parks and help manage and stuff like that. So that's kind of the transition how I got into that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. With kind of drilling down into the co-GP side of things, how does that work, and how can you help investors who maybe want to get into the space but don't want to be active? How does being a co-GP, how does that help investors?
Well, if you got to kind of look at it from the syndicators group, they're the general partners. They're not going to bring in a quote a co-general partner unless you can provide value to that group.
Right.
Now, you may have a construction company, or you may have a lot of connections. Like I had a lot of connections that could bring capital because every deal has to have capital. You may be able to provide something, provide value. So the only way that you're going to be asked by a group is if you can really help that group with a project, or if you yourself want to start a syndication company or whatever and partner with other people together, you could do something like that. So that's been my experience with it.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So basically, if someone's looking to invest, if someone wanted to invest with you, I guess, what would be the way they would go about doing so? Would they do it with you and when with one of your partners as co-GP? Would they do it into your the deals that you're doing directly in Louisiana, or is there like options? Like how would that look? What would that look like?
Well, the way that I started my group was I kind of just take the questions people ask me and the issues and problems they're having, and then I just try to help them get solutions. So they were following me and looking at my YouTube videos and reading my articles, and they say, Jeff, we like all the information you're providing, the education, and we see that you're investing in these deals, but we don't we don't really know what to do or how to invest. Can we just like maybe invest alongside of you? And I heard
Yeah.
that enough times, I started my passive investing group. And that way, any deal that I'm personally investing in, I'm showing it to my group. Kind of like if somebody had a big stock portfolio, they want to, and you're doing good. You're like, hey, dude, what stocks are you investing in, or what mutual funds, or whatever. So it's kind of like that. And so then I take the deals that I'm involved in. Back then, I wasn't actively involved in them as much, but now I'm very involved in them. I mean, I'm on calls and I go to properties and I do as much due diligence as I can. Am I perfect? No, but I want to do everything that I can up front, and then decide on investing, and then turn around and show those deals to other people. So we have a free passive investing group that people can join on my website, debtfreedoctor.com. These are for accredited investors only. I don't know if you want to get into that or not, but when then we take those deals and then allow people to invest in them as well.
No, it's that makes a lot of sense. So before we dive into accredited investors and everything like that, I know there's a few people tuning in right now. If whether you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, drop a comment if you do have any questions, whether it's about passive investing, active investing, whatever the case may be. Go ahead, drop some comments in there. So I have two questions that kind of cropped up through this. The first one is for those passive investors who might be tuning in who do want to get exposure to private real estate offerings like syndicates and funds. What is an accredited investor? And then after that, we'll circle into why mobile home parks out of all the asset classes that are out there.
I'm mainly in mobile home parks, but probably my biggest asset class is RV parks. We can talk about that, but I don't know if I can do the better explanation than an accountant, but I'll do my best. To people will reach accredited investor status really one of two. Well, I'm sure there's more than two ways, but the main two ways are either the net worth requirement or salary. And most people that we deal with, the physicians, dentists, high income people, is more their income. They make $200,000 a year or more single, or they make $300,000 a year or more married filing jointly, and they expect to make that for the next couple of years, or they have a net worth of $1 million, not including their house. And I know there's some other ways that you could do it, but that's the main requirements. And then I guess probably the number one question I get, and you probably get it too, is okay, how do you get accredited? How do you become accredited?
Right.
You know, and you can simply get your CPA to write you a letter. It's usually free. I had one guy reach out to me, go, my CPA is charging me $850. I said, you need a new CPA, you know?
Yeah, that's
Uh,
that that's expensive for that form, to be honest.
I mean, or you can go to, there's free websites. We like to use parallelmarkets.com. I don't know who you like. I think there's a verifyinvestor.com, but there's sites out there that could do it for free. All it is like a one-page form that's good for like what, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, so there's the parallel markets. They've actually had I invested in one syndicate. I forgot who it was with, but off the top of my head, but parallel did my form. I think it's every quarter they have to do it. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's every quarter. They have to re-verify that, although I could be mistaken there. But I will throw out there that while the income and the net worth tests or the net worth ways of becoming accredited are probably the most common and most popular because they're easy to do. But there's a few other ways. There's one if you have a professional license like the Series 6.5, Series 7, Series 8, or I think it's 8.5 or 8.9. Those will get you accredited as well. So if you have those professional licenses, I know the Series 6.5 relatively easy to pass. I took it, passed it for the purposes of becoming accredited a few years back. It's an easy way to do it. I know the SEC is actually working on coming out with a test that should you pass the test, that you would be accredited because you're going to be able to demonstrate that you have the proper knowledge and expertise and you understand the risks, the yada yada yada. You understand these type of investments. So that's coming soon. I know you mentioned you were in RV parks. We could drill down into that. There's multifamily out there. There's commercial. There's short-term rentals. There's all different types of asset classes out there when it comes to real estate. Why jump into RV parks?
That's a great question. And I started off at multifamily, then I switched, then I started getting into self-storage. I did have I did get into short-term rentals, and I have two short-term rental funds. We still have one fund open. So I was able to have all of that. And then when COVID hit, I was able to see what happened to multifamily. And it really, multifamily people really took a beating because, people were printing out all this money and the syndicators and the rates were like super low, like 3.5%. Then they started all those rate hikes. What was it, like 10 or 11? The Fed increased the rates. But what people really don't understand is these syndicators, like for instance, I'll give you an example. I'm in an apartment deal and it's like 200 plus units. Their insurance rates went up from $500 a door to like $3,000 a door with no claims filed. How do you think about that? Think about how your cash flow. How do you recoup that? You can't. And not only that, and a lot of them didn't have rate cap insurance. So whenever their loans came due, now they're having all this stuff. So it's really hurt multifamily, and now they're having to sell at a loss. So it's a big thing. So I experienced all that as an investor. And once I started looking at some other asset classes like RV parks and mobile home parks, well, both of those really increased during COVID because people were cramped up in their house, they wanted to travel. So if you go back and you start searching for RV sales, I mean, the RV sales just took off in 2020, 2021. The campgrounds were full. So I started looking at that, and then mobile home parks as well, just because of the housing is becoming more and more unaffordable. So I'm looking at how this country's going. And once I started getting into both of these asset classes, there's a just a ton of ways that you can make money. I mean, we can go in all different directions. I don't really know which specific one you want, but I'll let you ask the questions and we'll go from there. I think you're on mute, Tom.
Oh yeah, but I did hit the
Okay.
mute button. Yeah, one of the biggest strategies in my mind to build wealth in real estate, it's not necessarily a cash flow play necessarily, but to actually build your net worth to build wealth is value add, or as BRRRR as it might be called in the single family or small multifamily world. Um, are you applying the value add strategy to your investments?
I'll start with the RV parks first. So I've got a partner that's a real estate attorney, and he started buying RV parks. Then I had with another dentist. The dentist reached out to me and knew I had this network and said, "Hey, do you think any of your investors would want to invest in RV parks?" That's what eventually led me into getting into it because I started doing research. I didn't know much about it. And the value add strategy that we use is, and you've probably heard this line before, you make money in real estate on the buy.
Right.
So we're able to get 90+% of these off market. We have a guy that's a retired cop. He just cold calls people all the time and he follows up with them. And you'll get these people that you'll just call them up. Hey, this is so and so. You ever thought about selling your RV park? No, I'm not interested. And that's what most people say. Click. But then occasionally you'll get people that say, I really never thought about it. Get back with me. And so he'll follow up with them and and then eventually maybe out of 100, maybe he'll get 3 or 4 people that are interested. And the thing is with these people, these are mom and pop operators. Most of them haven't changed anything in the last 10, 15, 20 years. That almost the rates are the same. They haven't really kept up with the technology and they've just kind of gotten complacent. So what we're able to do is we're able to buy a park like that and just plug in all the different things that we have. Like we're vertically integrated, so we can manage it much better. We have SEO team, Facebook team, website team. We make it. You want to make it as easy for campers to make a reservation as possible. Kind of like Airbnb, you want real good reviews, so we're constantly getting good reviews because it's a hospitality business. So we're able to plug all that in. That's the value add. So you don't have to really spend much money, but we're getting it at a low cost. Many times we get it with seller financing because they like that little extra money income that's coming in that we can pay them. Plus, we get a lower interest rate. So right now, we currently have a park right outside of Glacier in Montana, and this here's your typical park. So it was a husband and wife. They're like in their 40s. They own this park for 7 years. Their kids are getting older. They're teenagers. They're getting burned out. They're tired of the day-to-day stuff. Their kids want to do other things. They want to move. They hadn't really kept up with a lot of the things. So that was a perfect park that we went in. We're actually we're in the phase now that we're getting ready to open it next month in May. So we go in there and we just plug all that stuff in. Well, they like it because we were able to negotiate seller financing for 5 years at 6% versus you paying 8.5% or whatever to a bank. And they like that because we're going to pay them that over the next 5 years, so much a month. So as they're transitioning out into something else, or maybe it's an older couple that's retiring, they get a little income stream. So all of those things kind of couple together, and that's our value add. And by the way, this one actually appraised. They wanted 10 million. We got them down to 6.25 million, and it actually appraised for 8.5 million. So that was like a $2 million instant equity, all because of all of those processes that I just explained to you.
Yeah, no, being able to come in, plug everything like that in, add instant value to an asset, that's I guess that's one of the biggest aspects of being able to be a real estate investor. Once you get that momentum behind you, you get your system set up, you could come in and you could take over an asset and boom, just like that, add a tremendous amount of value, which is phenomenal. I want to pause for a second. If anybody tuning in right now, if you do have questions, drop us a comment. I would love to take some of the questions from the audience here. Now we have people on YouTube right now. We have people on Facebook who are tuning in. So again, drop your questions. One thing, kind of going along this here. I know that you'll be speaking at the 2024 Tax Legal and Wealth Summit for investors. So really quick, just wanted to plug that for everybody. If you're listening right now to this, Jeff is going to be at the 2024 Tax Legal and Wealth Summit, sharing his story, how he got into investing, and how he basically went from a practicing dentist all the way through to a real estate investor. So you could check that out, www.taxandlegalsummit.com. Grab your free tickets. And if you do want VIP tickets because you're tuning in right now, I'm going to give you our special code that we only give our Tax Smart insiders. That's insiders. You can grab VIP tickets for $50 off. So for only 47 bucks, they're going to be $97 at the event. But kind of driving right back into this, uh, are you currently pursuing the real estate professional status, or are you a real estate professional now? And would you be able to maybe speak on that journey? Because I know there's a lot of high income earners, whether they be doctors, dentists, attorneys, salespeople, so on and so forth, who are trying to get to that real estate professional status, who are currently working right now. So could you kind of take us through that journey to get reps, or your path to reps?
Yeah, when I was working with when I started working with these syndicator groups, I realized that just about all of them were filing real estate professional status. And I didn't really understand the ramifications of just how powerful that is until I actually achieved it myself. And, I use your accounting firm and you guys help me stay on top of it with logging and all that stuff. But most of the time, for a busy professional, it's the non-working spouse or the part-time working spouse that can typically get the designation. So let me just show you how powerful this could be. So whenever we coach like doctors, let's say they're making 300 grand a year, and let's say they want to make a little more money or whatever, and they want to make 400,000 a year. Well, they have to work extra shifts or hours, weekends, whatever, to take time away from their family or doing things. But they don't understand, to make 100,000 more a year, how many more patients they have to see. So like the typical dental office is like a 70% overhead. I mean, you can probably do the math in your head. So if you're $1 million practice, that's 70% overhead. So then that's $700,000 that you're having to pay. And then on that $300,000 you take home, then you got to pay taxes on that. So it gets whittled away, pretty quickly. And so you could take somebody and say, hey, you want to make 300,000, let's just say you have to produce $1 million to take home $300,000, or you can become a real estate, or whatever taxes you pay. you know let's say you bring home 600 a year, and you got to pay $300,000 in taxes between the federal and state. Okay, that's
Right.
that's probably pretty
That's roughly
close to it.
accurate.
Yeah. So this is what I say. I say, would you rather work all these hours to bring home 600, pay taxes, so you're actually putting $300,000 in your pocket, or cut your hours back, work part-time like I'm doing, to make $300,000 and not pay any taxes? And that's when the light bulb goes off. So it's not about making more money, it's about making more time. So anybody
Right.
can go freaking make more money. I mean, look at the 18-year-old YouTubers. They're like millionaire YouTubers. I mean, anybody can make money. It's just, you can't get your time back. And I think as I've gotten older, and my kids are older now, the teenage years, and you just see as your kids get older, the window to do things with them is just really narrow, especially if they move off to college or whatever, then that's pretty
Right.
much it. And I realize more from a time perspective how important that is to me. And that's why I chose to do that.
Gotcha, gotcha. So basically, what you did is you said, you know what, let me dial back the hours I'm spending in your practice, right? You'll make a little, less money per se, but because of the benefits the real estate professional status provides you, you get basically tax-free income, right? More or less. And on top of that, you get your time back with your kids, and that's to spend in other areas that you want to spend in.
So I'll give you an example. So we have an investor that I coach. He's an allergist, I think like in Georgia or whatever. And his wife and his spouse is the real estate professional in the family. So if you have a non-working spouse or part-time working spouse, and you're a high income W-2 earner who couldn't cut back the time, that's a perfect situation of being able to do this. Again, check with your CPA or attorney. They can help walk you through it. But he came in to me. He was already had the real estate professional designation. Okay. A lot of times I coach them how to do it, but he was already a real estate professional. So he reached out to me. He's like, hey, Jeff, do you have any syndications that I can invest in, because I need the depreciation? And most of the time, doctors don't understand how the depreciation works. They think, oh, I'm going to invest and I get depreciation that'll offset my W-2 income. But
Right.
he knew that that wasn't the case. And he invested like $980,000 with us last year, literally wiped out all of his taxes as an allergist. And that strategy he uses is so powerful because he doesn't have to deal with tenants, his spouse does, whatever properties they have, but he just goes out there and invests in these big syndications to get all that upfront depreciation. RV parks, and this came from your partner, Brandon, that
Yeah.
he told me that RV parks and mobile home parks had some of the highest year one depreciation, anywhere from, I think he told me 60 to 80% of the purchase price year one that you could get in
Yeah.
depreciation. And that's why he invests in these syndications to get all that upfront depreciation, and he continues to do it so he don't have to pay taxes. And I think that's so powerful that people were able to do that. And once you do that, I mean, anybody can do it. The problem is nobody does it. I don't know why, but just very few, very few people do it. But once you do it, it's like, dang, why have I been doing this all along?
Yeah, no, RV parks, mobile home parks, some of the greatest depreciation benefits you can get, some of the highest levels of depreciation when you combine that with bonus depreciation that's out there. We did have a question that did come in through the audience. Is investing in an RV park or mobile homes, do they provide the tax benefits such as the short-term rental loophole? So I guess I could take that one.
Please.
So long story short, for the most part, mobile homes, unless you're renting them out on a short-term basis, which I've not seen personally. Yeah, I'm not saying people haven't done it, but I've not seen anybody really rent out mobile home parks on a short-term basis. So typically with a mobile home park, you're not going to get the short-term rental loophole. However, with RV parks, it's a little bit more common to see tax benefits or short-term rental like tax benefits in that area. Um, I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of RVs and RV parks and all that stuff, but long story short, if you're renting out your RV or your RVs on a short-term basis and you're materially participating, you're meeting those requirements, typically there will be tax benefits on an RV park if you're, again, materially participating. However, if you're not materially participating, perhaps maybe it's really passive for you and you're doing it directly and maybe you have somebody handling it for you, or you're investing in a syndicate or fund that's investing in mobile home parks, though, excuse me, RV parks, those will typically be passive for you as well. And mobile home parks, if you invest syndicate and fund, will be passive too. In fact, almost everything that you're investing in as an LP, as a syndicate and fund, will be passive. Um, we have a question that came in too. Has bonus depreciation passed for 2023? Um, it has not passed for 2023 yet. The Senate is still waiting on a vote. We're keeping really close attention to how that's going. Right now, it's kind of stalled out, and the general sentiment seems to be that it won't pass and that we're likely not to get retroactive tax benefits or retroactive 100% bonus depreciation back to 2023 at this point. That's kind of what we're seeing. Who knows how the cookie is going to crumble? But right now, unfortunately, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, it's not looking likely on the 100% bonus depreciation side. Um, but yeah, if anybody does have any more comments, questions, do drop them in there. We do have some time left in today's session. But Jeff, just as we're kind of going through this there, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, want to learn more about what you have going on, what would be the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, they can go to my website, debtfreedoctor.com, put out articles every week. There also, I have my Instagram link and my YouTube. A couple of years ago, I started kind of taking a step back and going, how do I learn all my material? And it was YouTube, right? And I'm like, well, okay, if I'm learning YouTube, I don't have a YouTube channel. So that's a problem. So I started taking all the articles, that I'm writing, and I've repurposed them and started making videos because sometimes people don't want to read articles, and
Right.
I'm like that a lot of times. So I have my YouTube channel on there, and the way that I get my information is people just ask me questions like, "Hey, what is how do you qualify a real estate professional status, or what are the taxes like, or whatever. So I take the comments and questions I get, I go out, find the answers, write the article, and I use a lot of AI software and stuff to help me with that, and then make the YouTube video too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's debtfreedoctor.com, Debt Free Doctor on YouTube. Um, and then also, so if you're interested in learning more, go check that out. Again, Jeff will be speaking at the Tax Legal and Wealth Summit that's coming up in May. Taxandlegalsummit.com to grab your free tickets. And again, if anybody does have any other questions, keep going. We'll probably be going for another few minutes here, and then we'll call it a wrap. But if questions do come in, we'll keep going. Uh,
One of the other things that you had asked me about, why RV parks, I didn't know all the different income streams that you could get until I started investing. I thought, okay, you own an RV park and people come and they stay a night or two and that's it, right? And that's what I thought. But little did I know is you have actually three types of tenants. You have those types of people, they're called transient, they stay a night or two. You can charge the most. So like if you have a sporting event, or if it's a holiday, or if you're in a beach area in the summer, you can charge more. If you're in a mountainous area in the winter, you can charge more. Like our park that we have up in Glacier, we're already booking out into July and the park isn't even open. So we can charge more when people are there, like in the summer. The second type of tenant is people that work in the area. They may want to work, they may rent from you weeks or months at a time. And then the third type of person is the people that actually permanently live there. Like you have people that actually live in RV parks. When you get, like we have one in my hometown, there's a couple of people there. When you look at it, it looks like a trailer. I mean, it's got skirting around it. It's got like a ramp. It's got a porch. I mean, but it's an RV. So that's the tenants. Then you can charge for different things like laundry. You can charge for ice. You can charge for golf cart rental. There is enhanced Wi-Fi, and one of the most overlooked things that you can charge for that we actually make six figures a year on is propane, because RVers really need propane. And that's another thing. So there's all these different types of income streams versus you have an apartment or a fourplex, you just have a long-term renter and that's it. But with RVs, there's all these different other streams of income. I like that because it does, even if you kind of get into a seasonal area like the beach, you still have other people that will want to come in. Maybe they're working in the area or whatever to help with that too. Probably the number one reason why I switched after doing multifamily and all that is because of how much less it costs, the maintenance, the taxes, the insurance to run an RV park. Think about it. If you own an RV park and a hurricane or a tornado comes through, people just pack up their stuff and go. You don't really have a whole lot of stuff that can be damaged versus if you own a 100-unit apartment building and a hurricane hits or whatever, you could be screwed. I'm not saying you're not going to have insurance on it, but it's totally different, and that's why I'm really glad that I switched from the other asset classes that I started off with.
That's awesome to see all the different income streams that are a part of an asset like that. It's not just the rental income that you're collecting. There's a lot of different things you could do. And I hear that a lot with multifamily as well, or used to hear that a lot with multifamily. I know multifamily may or may not be saturated right now. There's a lot of interest in RV parks like the ones that you're investing in. Um, before we start wrapping up today, I just want to give everybody one more chance. If you do have any questions, drop them in the comments. But Jeff, is there any big parting takeaways that you'd want to share with the people who are tuning in? Oh, have you ever looked into container housing for permanent tenants?
I'm not really sure what he means by container houses, but we have a contract with a group called Everroom that makes tiny homes. And they're putting tiny homes on some of our parks. They're putting 10 to 15 tiny homes in our park in Montana.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So tiny homes. I think that Lynn, I don't know if that's what you were referring to, if you have a follow up there, but um, Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna say, is there any final parting words or any key words of wisdoms that you'd like to share with everybody who's tuning in right now? We got some people on YouTube right now who are not in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, go to www.taxsmartinvestors.com/Facebook to join the Facebook group. And if you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube, search Tax Smart Investors. You'll be able to find us there. You'll also be able to find Jeff there at a Debt Free Doctor. But before we wrap up, is there anything you wanted to share with the audience?
Yeah, from what I see from being in Facebook groups, from being on calls, webinars such as this, I think people, myself included, early on, never do anything with any of this information because we're so overwhelmed with information.
Right,
And a lot of us want to get it perfectly right. Well, when I went to dental school, we only did so many crowns, so many bridges, so many implants. We didn't do it for thousands and thousands of them and become an expert before we got out. We learned what we needed to do, then we went out, but you really never started learning until you started doing.
right,
Most people just they don't do, they don't take action. It's analysis by paralysis, and that takes its toll. I got some people that have contacted me. I had a guy reach out to me recently that I talked to 3 years ago. And when I started talking to him back then, he knew as much or more than me about real estate. We connected again. He still hasn't invested in anything. I
right,
said, think about all that time you've wasted, not in just putting your money in a checking account. You've wasted 3 years of stick it in the stock market, stick it somewhere where you're going to make at least a little return. But I said, look, real estate is not right for everybody. If it causes you to, just to wait for 3 years to do anything or longer, then just put your money somewhere that you're comfortable with and move on. It's not right for everybody. But if you do want to invest in real estate or you want to start a business or whatever, get people around you. It's the who not how method. It's, not trying to figure out how to do everything. You figure out who can do it for you or with you, pay somebody because time is the most important thing, and
right.
then just go for it. It took me a long time to start my YouTube channel because I was asking, well, how do I start one? How do I shoot the videos? How do I edit them? How do I make those thumbnails? How do I upload it? And then once I read that book by Ben Hardy, Who Not How, then you start asking who can make it for me, who can do the thumbnail. And I found a who immediately
Cool.
started a channel. So
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest takeaway I hope that you guys would get from this would be find a who. And it's crazy, these doctors and dentists and people that make all this money, they want to try to do their taxes themselves.
Right,
And they're
right,
asking all these, and I'm like, you guys are freaking idiots. Go get a who, and not only are they going to do it for you, they're going to do it better than you.
right.
But and they're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. And I was like that. I was raised like that. But once you realize time is more important, to find a who to make you successful, on your way.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree with that more on both ends of the spectrum. Who Not How, an amazing book by Dr. Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. If you've not already read that book, you should definitely check it out. It's about finding who can help you do stuff, not always how, right? Instead of asking how can I do this, who can help me do that? Whether that's with a YouTube channel or real estate or whatever the case is for you. But also, I've fought my own battles against analysis paralysis in many different areas, whether that be YouTube, which I'll talk briefly about in a second, but then also in real estate for years. I mean, I remember I was like 10 years ago, I was like, I started learning about syndication, and one of my mentors was like, Tom, you know everything you need to know. Like, you just have to start pulling triggers and make taking action. And once I started hitting the phones, soon enough, I found a deal, right? Because I started taking action and things started going that way. Right now, I'm going through a similar thing with YouTube. I'm trying to build this YouTube studio. The light's not working. The camera's not fitting into the mount the right way. The thing's toppling over because it's too heavy. But really, what I realize is I'm just gonna hit record. They say just hit record, and we're gonna see where that takes us. But definitely understand that.
Well,
So
I can help you with that. You can reach out to your local college or church. More than likely, they have people that film, they can come in and look at your setup and give you recommendations for free. And they can probably order it for you because churches usually do like they'll do a film production. It's just people that volunteer. And then, people in then colleges, they have like a film production or whatever. And you can talk. A lot of times those college kids will come out and set it up for you. So that's what I got my ideas from.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a good one because I went on Craigslist and someone came by and they took a look and said, "Oh, you have to do this, 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 but I can't do help you with that today because yada yada yada." I'm like, "Okay, you're just wasting my time." But I'm gonna check at the local colleges and the church. There's a college down the block for me. Um, but we're coming up on time here. Again, if you want to learn more about Jeff, if you're interested in maybe investing with Jeff or exploring what he has going on, debtfreedoctor.com. Just go check that out. Also, Jeff will be speaking at the Tax and Legal Summit and Tax Legal and Wealth Summit coming up in May. Taxandlegalsummit.com. You can get your free tickets. Jeff, want to thank you for joining us today, sharing your knowledge. This is going to go on in replays, I'm sure, but thanks again for joining.